I'm Ryan,
And I'm Nick.
and you're listening to Going Offsides, presented by the Lacrosse Collective on the Lacrosse All Stars Podcast Network.
Okay, we're here with Naofumi Suzuki or also known as Udo, and he is a coach slash professor over in Japan. Udo, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, so how did you first get involved in lacrosse? Because obviously, I don't know how long lacrosse has been in Japan, but it hasn't been forever.
Right. I personally started playing at my college, which was in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, there had been lacrosse in Japan for nearly 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was some young college students started playing lacrosse in 1986, I believe. That's the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Like
Yeah.
in terms of global lacrosse, like that's a really long time since the 80s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, in terms of all that, so you're talking about a little bit with the origins of the game. Now, you're going back to 1986, like compared to we're a little bit older, so we can understand how far that dates back. But now, in terms of all that, the game getting started, was that some American students? If you might not, and you might not know, and that's okay. Was it brought over by maybe some American students that were studying in Japan, or was it? Did it kind of organically? Did someone come over to the U.S. or Canada and bring the game back with them?
Right. Well, it's actually. I think the history of lacrosse in Japan is briefly described in the website,
Mm-hmm.
on the website of JLA. But basically, they were Japanese students
Mm-hmm.
who were in the freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason they found out there is a sports called lacrosse. They thought it's cool, and then they went to, I don't know, I think American Embassy
Mm-hmm.
advices, and then they got connected with people over in the States. And then I as far as I know, Johns Hopkins University has
Yep.
had a very big role in introducing the games to those young people, young Japanese students. So, but it was those Japanese students who
Okay.
Awesome.
try to yeah,
Just kind of stumbled upon the sport, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
So for people that are unfamiliar, I was blown away when I was doing a little bit of research for this. I have no experience with lacrosse in Japan, but to see the way that lacrosse is played over there, I saw a highlight reel from one of your athletes, and I saw in the background there were just hundreds, if not thousands, of fans at this game, and
Right.
there were like tons of teams. What is the structure of lacrosse in Japan? Is it played strictly at the university level? Are these clubs like adult clubs? I know that most people don't start playing until
Right.
college. So what's the structure kind of like?
Right. I think I did a bit of research myself, and apparently there are 300 or 350 teams across the country now, but I think the most of them are college teams.
Okay.
I'm talking about both, men's and women's teams,
Right.
and but there are, as the game grew, naturally those who graduated from the colleges, they wanted to continue playing, so they started club teams across the country. So there are quite a few, I think. Well, not 100, but 50 or 60 club teams as well, I think. And
That's
then
incredible.
in terms of the membership, it's 18,000.
Wow.
That's amazing.
now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty big. And I heard that it's the second biggest
Okay.
after
Yeah.
America.
I was talking to Denmark and they have like 50. So 18,000 is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Stop what you're doing. Go to Instagram and follow us at going_offsides_podcast. You don't want to miss the giveaways that we're going to start doing. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. Now back to the show. And then
Yeah.
do you have like a national championship for your club teams, or do they just play like is there a college tournament every year? Is there an adult tournament every year?
We do there is the college tournament, and then there's also the club tournament. Are, so the champions of both leagues will play the national championship games.
Okay, so that's very cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And so you were talking about it. Guys and girls playing. They get through university and they still continue to want to play, and they. Now obviously we're talking about the clubs. I mean, in terms of kind of the development of the game, who are some of the more prominent faces of lacrosse in Japan? Some of those college players, maybe some of those club players, so that to someone who might not know some of the players that they should be keeping an eye on. I mean, because based off of everything with the last World Games, I know the senior team got a ton of notoriety for their style of play, and it seems like everybody's fallen in love with the style of play that the country's playing, which is awesome. I mean, I think it really fits the bill for how the game should be played. So who are some of the more prominent faces of the sport in Japan?
I don't know. Well, it's pretty minor.
Yeah.
Anyways, but there is a women player called Sachio Yamada, who's on the I think World Lacrosse players committee or something like that.
Okay.
And she's pretty well known.
Okay.
Because she's both within lacrosse and outside of lacrosse, because she's been in the TV shows.
Oh, okay. So she's a little bit of a already in Japan, and then
as one of the female athletes.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Yeah, category. And then she was a professional in Australia, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
So
as far as your experience goes, so you were basically a university coach for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And what university were you working with? I know you've moved universities now to a different one, but originally, where did you get started?
Right, I studied at the University of Tokyo, which is how you call it? Which is my alma mater.
Yep, perfect.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect, you got it.
So you coached there for a long time. Is that where you made your kind of your connection with the U.S. coaches?
Yes. Well, I first started, coaching there when I was a graduate student. So that was in 1990 or 1999, and then 2000, something like that. And then that's when we started to invite experienced coach from America to the team for a couple weeks every year. And then that's first one was Coach Ron Hebert, and who's based in Michigan.
Okay.
And
Ron Hebert, yes,
Ron
absolutely.
Hebert.
Yeah. I know Ron Hebert. Okay.
Well, and then he came and coached us for 3 or 4 years, and then we started this player not exchange, but we sent a couple of players to his team.
Okay.
As well.
I think that was back when he was coaching Northwood University.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. And then when I think so correct me if I'm wrong, but Northwood ended up dropping their program, and then is that where JP got involved and Michigan got involved?
Yes, that's right. So Ron started, working as an assistant at Michigan with John Paul. So that's when John Paul, kind of took over the same program that Northwood had been doing with us.
That's awesome.
So this time, yeah.
And so, I've worked with JP in the past, and you guys go way back. I didn't realize how tight you guys were in the beginning, and he always would talk about these trips to Japan and how excited he was to get back to Japan, and he just wanted to be back with his correct me if I'm wrong here, are you guys the Blue Bombers at the time?
But it was the name of the...
Yeah, what was the name of the Tokyo team?
Oh, we called us Blue Bullet.
Blue Bullets.
Blue
That's
Bullets.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I can't wait to get back to my Blue Bullets, and he spoke so passionately about it, and he always talked about like how great it was to go over and how all the people are great, and how I think the best way he put it was that the Japanese players were just so like hungry to be coached, and like they played the game with so much enthusiasm, and like small children playing the game is how they looked at lacrosse.
Right.
So
I try to keep it short, but basically when I quit, coaching when I after a couple of years, because I went to the United Kingdom for my PhD too. So there was a kind of several years blank for me to work with a team. So then that period was basically JP was, when JP was heavily involved.
Okay.
And then I came back, and then we continued the program a couple years, and then Michigan went to the Division 1. So we stopped the
you couldn't send players anymore because of the rules. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
JP came, once in a while. Anyways, so we got closer, during that period, because I went to Michigan for to learn from him, as coaching.
You came over here and observed a few practices.
So going back to your original, point. Yes, I mean young, Japanese, young players really, are enthusiastic about, learning things from the, players or coaches from America, and usually you see these days, some PLL players or MLL players, come over here, once in a while, and then there's YouTube clips or Instagram clips. Japanese players are really excited, like small kids, and that was the case. I mean, in 20 years ago too, and JP was young at that time too.
Yeah.
So, apparently he partied, every night with players too. So
okay. Well, I mean, it's a vacation for him too, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I know you had kind of briefly touched on it about some of the American coaches coming over, and then some of the professional players. I know recently, like the PLL sent a team out there to play in Japan, and kind of do some clinics and things like that. And I know you briefly touched on it. What was that like? What was that like for the players getting the opportunity to learn and obviously play against some of that talent? And I have to think too that's definitely helpful in terms of the development of the national program and everything like that. And even too, I know I've had the opportunity, because I'm originally from Long Island, and I know might not be every year, but usually it's every other year. I know a team from Japan comes over and they go for they run the gamut, and they go up and down the East Coast and go into the Midwest and play all the Division I schools. And I had the opportunity to see that 2 years ago when they came out to Long Island and played Hofstra. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, can you talk to how that kind of thing has, but it's two questions. Obviously there's the PLL side of it, what that was like to have them come out to Japan. And then also too, these trips that a lot of the universities and even, some of the senior teams are doing. That's got to be awesome for the growth of the sport.
Okay. Firstly, the PLL side of it. Well, we have to give credit to Sachio Yamada as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she started that 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because she had a network within the through the players committee, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of almost single-handedly gather all the players to get them committed to come over to play at Japanese team, and then it continued ever since. But and so that's I actually coached the Japanese team, for the first second year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And both women and the men's team for some reasons. But anyways, so there was to me it was a very valuable experience, because that was my first time to compete against the world's best on the ground level. So, and then good thing about for from the players' point of view, it's not we had a selection for the game, open selection, so anybody had a chance to play, and then that, so it's not, well, of course probably half the players were also the national team players, but the other half were not. So it opened up an opportunity for a lot of players to actually compete against the best players in the world, and then that's different from getting coached through clinics, because it's a competition. Of course, I don't think PLL players are really competing at the full strength, but still they could show their real potential.
Absolutely.
So that's helpful. And that gave a lot of players real confidence, as well. So
just being on the same field as guys like that will definitely elevate your game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a curveball question at you. So if an American coach like Ryan or myself were to come to Japan, what city would you, and this is okay if it's completely biased, what city should they go to see the best lacrosse?
The best lacrosse in terms of quality? It's in terms of quality, it's definitely in Tokyo.
Okay.
Tokyo. But you could go to Osaka and that region around Osaka. Well, but in terms of enthusiasm, if you go to Kyushu or Tohoku or Hokkaido, you get the same enthusiasm from the players. I'm sure.
That's awesome.
They are really
you have to be a little biased towards Tokyo, I'm sure.
It's okay.
That's fine.
No. Tokyo, in terms of the population, well, I don't need to support Tokyo, but it's always the Tokyo-based teams that win the national championship, both at the college and the club levels. So
Yeah,
there's a bit of a gap from.
for sure. I love just like in this deep dive into social media for Japanese lacrosse, I've loved getting to know like all the different teams that are out there, like the Steelers and all these cool names and all the sweet uniforms that are out there. I think it's really cool. You know, I got that clip from, I think, I don't want to butcher any names here, but from Toro Muramatsu. And he's done a good job on social media.
Right.
And obviously he's got the relationship with True, which is pretty unique for someone in Japan to have like a sponsorship like that from an American company.
Okay.
And it's really cool. I mean, honestly, it's just great. It speaks volumes to the growth of the game that, you know, somebody in a Japanese adult club has gotten, you know, the social media and the notoriety to be sponsored by an American company like that.
Cool.
So yeah, but it's awesome. You know, I haven't even scratched the surface of it, but to see, you know, the Red Bats and the Steelers and are you currently coaching just a college team, or do you coach an adult team as well?
Right. Well, I currently I'm involved in the national team program.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the development squad.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we have a pool of players, you know, for 50 or so players to get prepared for the World Games, you know,
Mhm.
World Championship a few years ahead. And I'm currently out of I'm not out of luck, but I'm not coaching the university team or club team at the moment. I'm
Okay.
focusing on
Focusing on the
Just
national team.
focusing on the international game.
and
Well,
I'm supposed to be a head coach of the under 19.
well, yeah, it's the U20 now, right?
Yeah, now U20, but I don't know if it's going to happen next year. But anyways, I do that too. So,
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. We hope that everybody can make it over to Ireland, right?
Yeah. Should I go back to Ryan's second point? Is it?
I mean, if you, I would love to, you know, to be honest with you, you know, from my standpoint, I would love to hear more about it because, and it's actually funny, where I finished up college, our campus backed up to Keio Academy in upstate New York. So I've always, like, you know, we always kind of had that relationship because they used some of our facilities and we actually shared turf fields. So it was like nice because right as I was finishing up college, they always had like a freshman or a JV team, but like they started building it up, and now it's actually a pretty thriving program up in Westchester County in New York. So I've always kind of was fascinated with that. And then obviously with the teams coming over and playing a lot of the Division I schools. I think it was 2 years ago. They played Hofstra, Towson, and kind of went up and down and did all that stuff. I mean, I think, and as you know, I remember years ago, those games necessarily weren't as close, but now as we're getting further and further along, and I think it speaks to obviously the development of the level of the players in the country, those games are getting closer and closer and closer. And you know, it's been really neat for me to see. I'd love to hear more about it and how those things kind of come together and just kind of all that stuff.
Right. I think Keio, as you said, Keio University did that, you know, first, and then which was actually 20 years ago, I think.
Yep.
So it's been going on for 20 years for them. But more recently, you know, Waseda Red Bats, Waseda University, and Blue Bullets too, follow them. And also the club team called Falcons, they are defending champions, defending national champions. They did that, you know, a few times. And basically, Keio had been the most dominant collegiate team for decades. and for them to elevate their games, I think it was the only logical choice to go over to the United States for real better quality of lacrosse.
Yep.
And then the national team as well was composed of Keio players or graduates from Keio.
Yep.
So to elevate the national team's level as well, it was important. So the JLA supported that sort of exchange program, very kind of generously, because it was during the time of the league games.
Yep.
So for Keio to go over there for a couple of weeks, they had to try to
move everything around.
Which is kind of in you might think that it's a doing a favor for one particular team to get stronger. So from the kind of equality point of view, it may not be ideal, but they did that to elevate the whole.
Right. It didn't make immediate sense to support just one team, but that one team going over there raises their level, and then they bring that back, and then everybody benefits from it.
That's the national, and then
the long term.
Waseda or Blue Bullets sort of wanted to beat KO, and then so we had to go for the same thing. That's the kind of thoughts behind Waseda and the Blue Bullets decisions. And seeing the Blue Bullets, going there and then coming back, they're kind of it's the same thing with the sending players over to Michigan too, but it gives their kind of they change in terms of the way they walk even.
They get that confidence.
They have a little bit of swagger.
Well, and I think you're starting to see that. I mean, and just obviously you're seeing that, but just in the performance in the last World Games and how well they played and how well the senior team has come along. I think those trips, you're starting to see. It's not like, oh, hey, we're just happy to be playing with these teams against these wonderful players. Now it's starting to be ingrained in the sense that it's all well and good. We're happy to be here, but we want to win and we want to beat these teams. And I think, that's kind of the trajectory of the program. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a lot of expectations coming into these next World Games that, there's going to be a big jump from the national team. Would you agree with that?
Right. Well, I don't know. It's the last World Championship was kind of a lot of players on that team on the national team for 10 years.
Yep.
Nearly 10 years. So some of them, it was the third World Championship or something like that. So they knew, what level they wanted. They had to be to compete against those teams. So that was very helpful. But also it showed that in terms of athleticism was the big advantage for us against most of the teams apart from the real top four.
Right.
Yeah.
And
speed especially.
Yeah. So but now other teams, of course, Israel or Puerto Rico, they are very Americanized, if you like, as well.
Yeah.
So, but also the European teams as well, they are catching up in terms of skills and strategies too. So we feel that we need to raise the level on that front too.
Mhm.
Right.
not counting on our athleticism, but
Gotcha.
we need to
Yeah.
learn more in terms of skills and strategies.
Well, you've had such a long head start, and
Yeah,
now other countries are starting to catch up. So now you need to keep looking for those competitive advantages.
right.
And to
Yeah.
piggyback on what Ryan had mentioned, all this experience with the Japanese national players or even the college players going overseas, playing in North America.
Mhm.
I think it also, leading up to a World Games, a lot of these North American players that are professionals are kind of like the role models for the sport and the people that people look up to. And it says a lot, getting that experience to go to the US and play them in scrimmages. It definitely like humanizes them and shows like, all right, we're just another, we're all just lacrosse players on a field. And then when they get to Worlds, it's not like, oh my God, that's a team full of my heroes over there that I see on YouTube. Now those are just regular people that are really, really good at the sport, but
Mhm.
it's no longer like, you don't put them on a pedestal as much. You know that you can compete, that you belong on that field. So I think, those opportunities definitely do that for a player. And, I think some of the younger teams, when they get, like let's say the European teams, those young ones at the European Championships, they always get seeded with like a really, really good team like a Germany or an Ireland or something like that. And they don't, they don't know what to do because it's such a difference in level, like
Yeah.
just the name. If you're a Slovenia and you have to play Germany, you're just like, this is gonna suck, because like you just look at it that way. Whereas now, like Japan, they have all this experience going back and forth. They know some of these players. Now it's just like we can do this. Like,
Hmm.
we got a chance at this. We just have to play a great game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and it helped. In the beginning of this year, we there was a we got invited to the what they called in spring premiere.
Okay.
So we played the development squad played the U.S. national team
Hmm.
senior and under 19. So we had a pretty good game from our point of view against the senior team. It was 8-5 or something like that.
Yep.
And then we got beat very heavily by the under 19. So there was a both side. We saw both sides in terms of what we can do and what we are not be being able to do.
Yeah, and I think that
So,
like
but
what
yeah,
you were. Oh, good.
yeah, no.
No, what you were talking about. I mean, in terms of that spring premiere game, I know that was. I mean, they wrote a big article about it and how it was kind of like I guess there's I don't want to say there's always that like aha moment, but that was that moment where it was like, wow, it's come a long way, and these, you can't, they can't be denied. This is a team that, if obviously the trajectory still plays on. You spoke about catching up to those big four. I think of everything you're talking about, the confidence and everybody being able to have that kind of bravado walking around. I think that's got to be huge going into, obviously, the summer this year, going into the next World Games and everything like that. I think it's going to be, it's huge going into that, because there has to be there if there wasn't belief before, there's definitely belief now, right?
Yeah, we are getting closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that U19 game, didn't you play that back to back after like a
Yeah.
20-hour flight? So I'm pretty sure you guys were a little gassed after that,
Well,
that
but
senior
but
scrimmage.
I admire. I forgot the coach's name. Oh
Nick Myers?
Yeah, Nick Myers. He prepared his team very, very well. Very,
Yeah,
very well. So
yeah.
The U19
He's
team plays with some swagger, and those coaches, I mean, I'm sure they would love to have that U19 team on campus for 4 years.
they definitely, and they definitely have, they play with some discipline, and He runs a tight ship there. You know, there's no nonsense with them. It's not like it's not just a roll the ball out and let's play. It's he holds them to he holds them to probably a higher standard than he probably holds his college guys to.
Yeah, maybe. And then the thing is, obviously he had seen the game, you know,
Yep.
like our game against senior team, so he knew what our strength and the weakness is.
Mm-hmm.
So
got scouting report.
His game plan was spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So looking forward, and you may not have an opinion on this, and that's fine. Looking forward at the World Games coming up in 2022, you know, Ireland takes a step out.
Right, yeah.
And you happen to be a country that's left in. How big of a moment was that, like on the international stage? You know, what did people, you know, in your little circle in Japan of lacrosse coaches or on the national team, you know, what was the conversation there when you heard that first Iroquois weren't going to be involved at all? And then, you know, when everything started to happen and the dominoes fell, and then, you know, just today or yesterday, we find out like it's official, you know, they're in. So what kind of, you know, just any comment you have on that or any conversations that you kind of had over in Japan about that?
Okay. Yeah, well, it's my personal opinion. And then I didn't know, but I was actually, well, a friend of mine told me that I was one of the first guys to respond to that, you know, Iroquois petition through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I shared their, you know, post, and I said I wanted your support through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Japan, I was apparently I was the first one to do that. So I
Stop what you're doing. Go to Instagram and follow us at going_offsides_podcast. You don't want to miss the giveaways that we're going to start doing. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. Now back to the show.
Obviously was, you know, sympathetic with Iroquois, or, you know, more than sympathetic. I thought it was always a must for lacrosse to involve the Iroquois nationals at every tournament. So my personal concern is, you know, when we go for the Olympics, will they allow the Iroquois nationals to compete in the Olympics? That was always my personal concern.
Mm-hmm.
So this World Games coming up, I was definitely on their side, and there wasn't, well, and I think I didn't talk to you know, my peers in Japan a lot about this, but I'm sure a lot of them were sympathetic as well. And even though, well, yeah, that's about it. I think everybody likes Iroquois,
Right.
and everybody wanted them on the tournament, and so the you know, the Ireland lacrosse's decision was really noble, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but I would have done the same thing.
Right. So that's good to hear. It's good to hear that, you know, I mean, everybody says that, right? Like, oh, this is so bad. Like, we shouldn't play if they can't play. But for teams to actually step up and be like, we're willing to bite the bullet and
Give
not
up our
play
spot
so that they can play. So that's huge. And it's nice to hear that it's not just Ireland that feels that way. You know, Japan, you know, people in Japan felt the same way. Like someone should, you know, make room. And it's really nice to hear because, you know, in the US, where it's ingrained in us that lacrosse is a Native American sport. It's a gift from them. Is that background for the game well known in Japan? Like, do players that play in Japan understand that they created the game, or is that something where it hasn't really translated across the board yet?
Well, I cannot speak for the younger generations so
Mhm.
much, but well, if you get it, become loving the sport,
Mhm.
you cannot get away with not knowing the origin
Yeah.
of the game. And then if you look at every world tournaments, there's a team called the Iroquois Nationals, and then they don't, Japanese people in general don't know about anything, you know, anything about them.
Right.
But we see that on the tournament, and then so my point is so as we get involved more
Mhm.
in lacrosse, we noticed there's a team called the Iroquois National, and then we studied about them,
Okay.
and then also through social media,
Hmm.
players like Lyle Thompson is big
Mhm.
in Japan too. So they like the Iroquois players as players too, like the
Right.
Yeah.
They
stats
might not understand the link 100% yet
Yeah.
based on their experiences in lacrosse, but
Yeah.
like you said, they know who the Iroquois are, and they might not understand the significance of who they are, but
Yeah,
But it's getting there.
Ted
yeah,
Williams winning the
Well,
MVP was big as well. So
that
those players, those star players, are the entry point for the younger
Well, and
lacrosse
I think too,
players.
it's like, you when you fall in love with this sport, and excuse me, and I can't speak for every sport, but it's just, from a lacrosse standpoint, when you have that enthusiasm and you have that love for the game, you tend to try and learn as much as you possibly can about it. So, it seems like obviously what you're saying is that, that's there. So, and it helps to, and I think it's not just helping, over in Japan. I think it helps in North America as well. It helps that one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, is a Native American, and is part of a tribe that helped, create the sport. So I think that's definitely creating more of an emphasis for understanding the roots of the
Right,
game. I think not just in Japan, but I think it's just everywhere across the world.
right,
I think that's so important, and I think that's huge for everybody, for all lacrosse fans, and it
yeah.
connects us all.
I
Mhm.
mean, geographically, it makes sense that we know the history and the background, the link, because we experience it. You've coached native players before.
Hmm.
That doesn't. A coach in Japan doesn't coach a native player very often, if
No,
ever in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So, I think social media is the great unifier in terms
Hmm.
of
yeah,
that, and it helps that the Iroquois people are essentially not only the creators of the game, but the face of the sport as well.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that's made it more relevant than ever. There was a time, probably Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. When you think of the MLL in the early 2000s, you're not really thinking of too many guys that are the face of the sport like Lyle is today.
No, I mean it was all the Warrior guys. It was Casey Powell and Mark Millen and a lot of those guys. It wasn't, there were obviously some natives, but they weren't necessarily the face of the sport the way, a Lyle Thompson is. And I mean, Lyle Thompson has his own, and the Thompson family have their own brand within Nike right now.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Most certainly.
Mhm.
So switching back focus to the national team real quick. I mean, obviously, I think you consider anyone in the blue group to be your rivals. But is there a
Yeah.
specific, I'm sure you have to play some more local games geographically with countries in Asia. So is there a country in Asia that you would consider a rival, or that you
Well,
scrimmage against and consider a rival?
right. Well, I don't know. Well, those East Asian
Hmm.
countries, they are getting better for sure. And then, for instance, the Chinese team has got a lot of American players based in America, the young
Right.
ones. So we never know how, but at this point, we are pretty confident that we wouldn't have a problem beating them.
This
They
is
are young.
the most humble way of saying that we're the best East Asian lacrosse country.
No. But well, look at the World Championship last time. Well, I should be more diplomatic maybe, but but looking
That's
at
fine.
the World Championship last time, I was there to kind of research what's going on around the world. I wasn't on the national team, but I was there representing JLA, and then there's a gulf between Asian teams and then kind of other teams.
Yeah, it's okay to say it.
So,
Japan's the best Asian team at the moment, and that's
But-
okay. So I'll kind of end the whole conversation with a question I should have asked a long time ago. Ryan and I have experience having read about it, having seen it, but could you describe the Japanese style of play? Because it is not, when we think of the Iroquois, we think of a certain style. When we think of the Canadians, we think of a certain style, and then when we think of like the U.S. players, we think of a certain style as well. So for those people that don't know, what does Japan's style of play look like?
Right, it's a hard question to answer actually, because it used to be easier because there was it has been the speed and was speed and quickness.
Lots of shots, right?
Yeah, was our identity. But now we know that it's not the way. We cannot only rely on the speed and quickness.
Yeah.
Because to compete at the blue division and up against the world best, we need to play more standard lacrosse, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
I was reading about how you've shifted as a country, or at least on the national team level, away from just speed. Let's just throw a lot of shots into a more deliberate. You still you're still quick, but you're not playing like a rushed style of lacrosse. I feel like the old style was kind of like, let's get the ball and let's move it as fast as possible, no matter where we are on the field. And now it's like you still play quickly, but like with a lot more like strategy behind that. And it's not just play quick just for the sake of playing quick. It's to fit a certain style, and
you're using the international rules to your advantage.
Yeah, well, we don't know yet. We might go back to more. We might go back to a style, focusing more on speed and quickness after we learn those subtlety of the games, like how to organize the off-ball players, and things like that, and
You answer my question, don't worry. And then I did think of one more. Because it's very different based on every country. England gets some support from their government. Most countries do not. How closely? I mean, JLA has, like you said, maybe the second largest membership group in World Lacrosse. So what is the relationship like, if between the JLA and the Japanese government? Is it a mutual support, or is Japan really waiting for kind of the Olympic push?
Right. Yeah. Well, we have no official relationship with the government as yet.
Okay.
You say, and then we are not on the national Olympic committees yet, because we are not the Olympic sports.
Right.
So if we get on that, then we might get governmental support financially.
Yeah.
As a lot of minor sports do, but we have been proud of being independent,
Right.
not
Mhm.
not relying on the governmental support, but we fund ourselves through membership fees and sponsorship,
Mm-hmm.
and then we grew that way. So we are proud of that, but we'll see what happens.
Like most countries, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, and this is a conversation for another episode, but a lot of people don't understand that, the Olympics is not only great from like the standpoint of being like one of those premier sports in the world, but it adds so much funding to the sport, which will then grow the game a lot more, because some of these teams, like let's say Eastern Europe, where they struggle with other sports, they can't be competitive in soccer. It's just not going to happen. They could be like a tier 2 world lacrosse team if they put enough money into it quickly enough. So it's just an interesting domino that needs to fall to unlock those Olympic dollars and Olympic funding, and even just Olympic support on how to run your organization within the country. JLA is a very good organization. They run very well. US Lacrosse, same thing. But a lot of these countries, it's just one guy, and his home address is the address for the country's lacrosse. And it's hard to support an entire country like that. So I think that's a big domino that will need to fall, and hopefully it falls in the near future.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to, well, for some small lacrosse nations, it must be hard to kind of going fast developing themselves. But now the World Championships, we have a qualification games now, so that's probably a very big change as well, apart from the Olympics.
Right.
As the game grows, we cannot accommodate all the countries.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing,
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
If you go to the World Championships, there's a very, the whole.
Right. There's a lot of different divisions.
Everything.
Yeah.
What's happening.
Skill levels, but
there's a community. We feel we are all of us are there together.
Yep. Exactly right.
That was rare, but yeah.
But it won't be happening anymore, because now we've got we got cuts. We made it.
Yeah.
Like any big college program, the moment you start cuts, you made it. You have enough kids.
Yep.
So, well, perfect. Udo, it's been great. Really appreciate your time. I'm sure
man,
it's
awesome.
Teach today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much for taking all the time and speaking with us, man. It's been awesome getting to talk to you, learning more about the JLA and the national team and everything going on over there, man. It's we're excited to see kind of the next steps for everything. And like you said before, I hope to see you guys in Ireland this summer.
Yeah. Will you be personally there?
You know what? I won't. It was going to be one of those things where where I was coaching last, we had a couple of players that were in the pool for Team USA, and they made it to the final cut. Had they made it, we probably all would have made a trip over. But with everything going on too, it's just a crazy time for everybody. I think most important thing is everybody has to stay safe and stay healthy. So man, if we can get over there, we're going, but who knows? It's kind of like you take it day by day.
Everybody's getting better, communicating through online. So
yeah,
I'm sure there will be a live stream.
Oh, absolutely.
Under 20.
Under 20. Yeah. This might be the last year would have been the last time for the U19s. I think they're going to keep it as U20s, what I'm hearing.
Right. Okay.
It's easier than trying to go back and explain that to everybody. So
Yeah, exactly
well,
right.
anyway, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much,
の
man.
だと
And I'll be sure to send you a link when everything's up, and I'll include all the social medias for Japanese lacrosse and everything like that. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no
Awesome,
problem.
man.
Thanks for helping us out.
Yeah, man. Have a great rest of the week.
You too. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.